So at 32, I decided I wanted to learn to skateboard for the very first time in my life. My main point of entry was my friend, who was also learning to skateboard for the first time in his life, and he was much older than me, so no shame in starting something really new at an old age. So he gifted me one of his old boards, and after work we would just kind of find time to roll around the parking lots downtown. At one point we were maybe skating around together for about a month, and I had just quit my corporate job of 4 years, and I was 1 year shy. When I quit, I was 1 year shy of qualifying for their profit sharing program thing. Clearly very important to me that I didn't go for. And that was kind of just like the one thing that I was told when I was working at that corporate job. It was like, just work 5 years, get the money and bounce. But I didn't do that, and they were like, you must have a very good reason. Like, you came into like a shit ton of money or something. Like, something must be so good that you quit right before you qualified for this. And so my friend asked that question, why I left, and I didn't really have a good answer. Like, I was just kind of like, it didn't feel right. It felt like I was just doing the same things over and over and over again without any like real impact. Like, I couldn't make the connection of what I was doing to like how I was contributing to the world. The stability of the job felt unstable. Like, it didn't feel like it actually gave me the stability. I had financial stability for sure. I had the stability of just like kind of this routine in my life. But emotionally, I was like distraught. I was like not stable at all. I don't know why, and it wasn't for a lack of trying. I did all the things they told me to do. I jumped through all the flaming hoops to get that raise, to get the promotion, to get like some semblance of recognition that I still didn't really get. And I think at that point, I was just like, I gotta quit. I will say that I had a job lined up, and it was gonna pay me better. But spoiler alert, it was the worst job that I have ever had. But at that point, I was like, this feels like new beginnings. Like, I'm going to leave this corporate job. And so he listened very politely, and then right before he jumped back onto his board, he said, man, you're punk as fuck. And then he rolled away, and I was like, I don't know why you did it like that. Also, I have follow-up questions, come back. Because I really didn't think that what I did was punk. I was just like, this does not make sense. I just need to leave, so I am going to leave. And somehow to him, that was like a punk thing to do. And I think what was interesting upon reflection, that what he picked up on was this habit that I've always had of leaving seemingly stable environments for something else. And usually the people around me are like, why did you do that? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't feel logical for you to leave what feels like you're set for life, don't leave. So before I continue with my history, I want us to take a step back into punk rock history. So late 60s, early 70s, punk rock was born. And this was around the same time the Beatles was really big. Their Sgt. Pepper album was a hit during that time. And it's a lot of psychedelic rock, a lot of experimentation in music making. And that was considered mainstream in rock music. And everyone loves the Beatles, even now, even today. But there was kind of this counter movement of just kind of questioning what we're doing in music making. So underground punk rock was born. Velvet Underground was one of the early influencers of punk rock, and then since then we've had the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, Talking Heads, Iggy and the Stooges, MC5, The Clash, Patti Smith, and all of those punk rockers, they kind of go at it with this like level of heart, this loudness in their expression, this want to like express it in a way that feels authentic, in a way that doesn't feel like, it's not just go with the flow, it's not just like, it's all good. It's like, no, things are there are things happening in the world that are wrong. What are we doing? Why are we just kind of following along the trend? How do we like get people to wake up, get people to like really see and just have some sort of like individual thought, just have some sort of like opinion on like what's going on, and then have a stance, whatever it is. Because we like to think of punk rock as like this, we gotta break all the fucking rules. Like if there's a rule, we break it, and that's punk. But it's not really break all the rules. It's really understand what the rules are, and a lot of times when the rules are oppressive, then we break them.
Because I like to kind of use punk rock music song structures or music making as an example of how they still follow the rules. It's usually still in the 4/4 time signature. It uses simple chords. There's a lot of simplicity in punk rock, but a lot of loudness and a lot of like authentic expression. And all the punk rock bands that I had listed, and many more since then, they kind of have their own flavor of punk to their music, to their sound. And it's really because they themselves carry the essence of punk, and then they embed it into the music and express it with their music. Patti Smith especially, she was really a poet, but in her desire to express her poetry in a way that felt much more genuine, much more authentic to her, she then started like calling her friends out and be like, let's do music together. And so her style of punk rock music is a blend of like her own music taste, a little bit of jazz, and a little bit of poetry. This is also during a time where like lyrics start to become more important in song making, like having meaning behind the lyrics. So in punk rock, that's a lot of just countering the conformity in a way that like you see the conformity and you just like want to understand why that's happening, and you counter it because it's like we don't want to necessarily just follow you because we want to follow you. We can still follow some of your rules, but countering conformity becomes part of punk. You know, to question the mainstream. Why is it mainstream? Why is what is it that's happening that feels like a trend and everybody's going along that we might want to follow along to? Again, we can. But they question it for a second. What is it that we are following? And then we want to provoke that critical thought, that individual thought, even if it's not critical. Something that you can hold on to make an informed decision or an informed stance. And truly, I think that is where the essence of punk rock comes from, is the countering, the question and the provoking, not just like chaos and breaking all the rules. It's really like, who are we? What is our position in this world? What are we doing here? So back to my history. I'm originally from Malaysia, and I come from a stable home, stable family, stable everything, friends, school. I grew up like 2 decades in Malaysia before I left, and that stability is very superficial for me. Like it just seemed I had all the connections, all the comfort, all the security that I needed. But inside, I was just like, something is wrong. Like I felt like I was fulfilling all the social obligations, all the family obligations. I was the first child, so a lot of responsibility on me. And my upbringing was very Eastern family values, just lots of just like strong, like here's how we do things to be successful. And I followed them to the best of my abilities and still felt like something was wrong. And I was also like wanting to figure out how to share it. Like, surely someone can help me because I'm supposed to have all these connections that feel supportive. But most of the time when I would bring it up, it would feel like I was told that I was being dramatic, that I was being very sensitive. Sensitive was a big word it was said that I was. And then I was also just being ungrateful. And that's really hard because then I started to learn that I can't really find support to help me express, help me understand what was going on inside of me. So, like everybody in this room maybe, I planned to run away. And this isn't just run away from home and crash at a friend's house. This is run away from the whole ass country. Because Malaysia, if you don't know, I'll show you a world map in a second. Malaysia is very small, and my 16-year-old brain was like, they're gonna find me if I just stay in Malaysia. So I'm gonna try to figure out how to run away from the country. And I learned on my passport I could go to the UK. So truly my plan was to like run away to the UK. And there were actually cheap flights from Malaysia to UK because I think it's like a, I don't know, 10-ish hour flight. It's like easier of a flight than from here to the UK. And there was like a big push in tourism at the time for flights to the UK. So I was like, I can do this totally. I believe I had the money. I don't know for sure if I had the money or not. I knew somebody in the UK that I could crash with. If I knew, I really didn't because it was someone on the internet who went by a pseudonym. And as absurd as all of that sounded, it still felt like a safer plan than staying home, which is kind of nuts. Here's a little map to give you perspective of how far away I went. Spoiler alert, I ran away even further, because the US is on the left side of that map, I actually went further. But the UK was my first plan, and I was trying to figure out like how to get there. So I was thinking I had money, I'll pack it up, I'll go to the airport, fly to the UK. But I didn't go for that plan because I couldn't really figure out how to get to the airport. I didn't have a friend that I felt like I could confide in to like help me plan. I didn't drive, know how to drive at this time. I was just like, yeah, I just probably didn't think it was gonna work. So I did not go for that plan. So I was trying to figure out how else can I leave the country. And I thought, okay, I can be clever about this. I can leave the country via college. So that's study abroad. And I posed it to my parents, my dad especially. My dad was like, absolutely not, because he believes that what you get out of school is what you put into it. So really, any school should do. And I did not believe him, but I was not in a position to do anything differently. So I looked at schools. There was a fashion school in Malaysia that did this like 3+1 program, where it's 3 years for fashion in Malaysia, and we can add 1 more year of fashion school in the UK. And then that would be the bachelor's. So 3 years it was like a diploma. I kind of call it like an associate's, and then +1 would be a bachelor's. So I'm like, maybe I can go to the UK for school, and then just don't tell anyone that I don't plan on coming back. Which, yeah. But so this school, I go, and I do my 3 years, and I'm just like following the rules at this point. So I just gotta stick with it until then. And then my final year, I looked for somebody to talk about what this 1 year, additional 1 year should look like. And they were like, there's no such thing. We don't have such a program. I don't know how or where you heard it from, but we don't do that. What the fuck? This is my plan. What are you talking about? I was like in this. I don't understand. How, like, who told me how? I can't repeat myself. I don't know how I got to this point where I did 3 years and then they told me I can't even have it become a bachelor's. I don't. What is this non-existent degree then? What do I do with that? So I think I reached like it felt as I'm like writing this talk, I'm like, was there like a flip of the switch? I don't know. At the time it didn't feel like that, but I think I remember like this is my last year. My final for this fashion school is like a collection of like 5 or 7 pieces, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do whatever the fuck I want. I'm going to just do whatever I want to complete this non-program and at least come out of it with something that I really enjoy doing. So I had this theme for my fashion line. It was called Contusions, so bruises, because I was emo. And
There was a lot of black and blue in it. I was very inspired by Victorian Golf style of fashion, which is as far away from Malaysian traditional attire as possible. I had this image that drove toward all these telephone poles against this blue sky. And this isn't the original image, but the original image had a character, a main character at the forefront, just kind of looking past. And it just felt very I want to go wherever they can go. So that image really drove the vibe of the whole piece. And this drawing I drew from memory. I really don't remember the rest of my collection. I remember this piece because it was 50-50 hard and soft, 50-50 black and blue, 50-50 just everything that I love, but in opposites. And you can kind of see how the colors and how the structure, even the chords, was very inspired by the photo on the right. And I kind of went at this on my own. I asked no one. I drew everything. I sourced all the materials for this fashion line by myself. There is this area in the city center of Kuala Lumpur where it was in Malaysia, where it was just tons and tons of choices of fabric. But it was a very sketchy kind of area. It's wholesale. It's just very bustling. You really shouldn't go there by yourself, but I did several times to look at all the fabrics, look at all the grommets and studs, just do it all by myself. And I think that was maybe the first time that I was I can do things by myself. I don't really have to rely on someone saying this is how you should do things. But in doing it by myself, I'm still in line with technically what I was supposed to do. So I was following the rules. And they cannot fail me. They cannot not give me my non-degree. They have to give me it. I checked off all the boxes on the checklist. They can't argue. Also, if you know me now, you get to see how that is always showing up. Where I can do something different, but you're can't really argue with me because I did it the way you have it was. But the DIY was obviously one of the bigger examples of the punk, the punk principles. Because in punk rock music, DIY means you do everything about your music on your own. You not only write your own songs and record your own songs, you distributed it, you promoted it, you did the album art, you produced it, whatever you needed to get the word out for your music, you did it on your own. But something that I really started to appreciate about DIY is that it's not about independence, it's about interdependence, because you still tap into the people that that is your support system that you can rely on. And so if you know someone's really good at something, you're yo, do this for me, please, and we can trade something later. And I think even though there was a lot of for my fashion line that I did by myself, that was a lot of working with the different vendors, coming back. There were systems that I could make use in the school to make sure that I could get it done. So teachers still had to let me do whatever I wanted to do because it was still following along the guidelines, the requirements of the program. So I'll give DIY. Another DIY story I want to share is much earlier in our history. When I was 7, I got invited to my friend's birthday party, and her invitation came in through the mail. And it was kind of exciting because it was the first time I got a piece of mail with my name on it. And the party I don't remember. I don't remember this chick. I don't know who she is. But the invitation, I remember just being so enamored by this concept of you doing hosting something and inviting people to come. It was my moment at 7. And so I immediately then made my own birthday party invitations for my birthday. That was going to be in 5 months. Just immediately I started making, I don't think that her party was happening yet. I was already making my own birthday party invitations. Because I don't know why this concept of just
I can just invite people to my things. But it just felt so celebratory of not just myself, but all like who's around me that I can come be a part of it. So the invitation was super dope because I drew this fairy on one side. I just took like copy paper, didn't fold it or anything. One side are the details like address, date, whatever. And then on the other side is this fairy that I drew for every invitation because I didn't know what a copier was at the time. So maybe 10, 15 fairies that I drew by hand. And it was meant to be like a coloring page contest. And so this level of interaction that I didn't even realize that I was always thinking about. But there were big prizes if you came to the party with a completed coloring page. Singing and dancing is the prize for winning. That was such a treat, okay? It was going to be such an epic birthday party. And so I did this, I gave them out to kids at school, and then I told my parents that it was happening. And I remember just like, they were like, you already gave what? You already gave out the what date did you put on there? What time did you put on there? But it happened. And I think I was just like, if this kid can have a birthday party, I can have a birthday party. Like, that's not a problem. I didn't think that was a concern. So I was like, parents, make it happen. But then it did happen. Like, people came. I actually don't remember people filled out the coloring paper now, but I'm sure we sang and danced. It was fun. And sometimes I think to myself, like, did I make up this? Surely I didn't do this instead. No, I texted my mom and I was like, yeah, she even remembered which house it was. It says for. And I think that like concept of like, I can just do this on my own was very natural. It was just like, no brainer. I can just like do it. And I had this support system. I trusted my parents to pull off my party for me. I trusted that my friends would come, even though the invitation was 5 months early. I'm pretty sure my parents pulled some strings to make sure, like, okay, this is a real party. She didn't just do this to not have a party. And then the party happened. Like, it's like such a beautiful like way of connecting with the resources that I had at the time. And I didn't really even realize that. I just kind of naturally felt it. And I think the point that I also really liked about that story and my favorite way of framing punk culture is in its accessibility. Because it's not a certain look or a certain aesthetic. It's not a club that you like have to pay some sort of amount in order to get in. It's really just whatever you have at hand. And so I didn't know what a copier was, but I knew what copy paper was. I had markers. I knew how to distribute it to my friends, which at school. I didn't put it through the mail like another friend. But it was just like this level of accessibility that I felt like it allowed me to do whatever I needed to do at the time that I needed to do it. And thinking through also like other aesthetics that we connect with punk is like you can just chop off the sleeves of your shirt. You can just put holes in it. You can put safety pins in your ears or on your clothes, wherever. And then in terms of like the invitation copy paper, but also you can make your own name tags. You can just cut out letters and put them together. If you have access to a copier, you can make multiple copies and do like scene making. It's like grade school shit. Like you can do all of it is so accessible. And I think I always kind of clever. Some people already know that birthday story. And I think I keep coming back to it because it was just so easy that I did that without thinking. That I cannot help but think that some level, like one of the core essence of punk is the accessibility of it. Speaking of invitations, last year I launched this initiative called the Stranger Collective. And this was 100% based on my horrendous experience in my career, where so I left my corporate job. But before that, I was working in advertising. Yes, I was working in advertising. Before that, I was working in startup. I think I cut that off. Before that, I was working in startup, and before that, I was working in advertising. Before that, I was working as an intern graphic designer. After the corporate job, I worked at startups again, and then I worked at an agency, and I got laid off from the agency in 2023. And it just threw out all like I was welcomed in a way that brought me into the space, into the work, into the whatever that was needed to be done for the job. And if anything, it always felt like, Ruzanna, you're doing this wrong. Please do it the way that you want me to do it. And the competition is money. And that's how they get you. Because we need money. That's just like a fact of life in the systems that we live in, right? And so when I was looking at building, like, what is a way to counter that, to really figure out, like, surely it's possible to do it differently. I framed this collective work as a collective of designers or creative professionals crafting our own way of working based on our personal values to inspire more meaningful connection. And so my hope and my dream was that every person has the opportunity to come as themselves, to get to know themselves, and then as an individual come into community, get to know other people as who they are. And also get to learn like who you vibe with and who you don't vibe with. Both are very equally important, but you can be respectful in the vibing or not vibing. So that was really cool. Some of you here are on here on the side. Because in the last year I hosted a few events trying to like figure out what it meant to build that collective, to build that community, what it meant for people to learn about themselves, to want to learn about themselves. And I think I did, so the main part of the collective work was this 10-week program where I would sit with participants to work through values, personal values, and really understand like what those values mean to you and how you want them to show up in your work. And then at the end of each program cycle, I ran 2 cycles, and of each program cycle was a storytelling event. And that storytelling event was an opportunity for the participants to simply share to the community what they learned, and then in hopes that the community then can self-reflect on what that might mean for them. And so it's a give and take, just kind of like an invitation and encouragement, a way to show like it's possible. Like you can sit and think through what you want and then find your ways through it. In addition to that, I ran a separate values definition workshop with Bobby and Fossil Books, and I also I did a talk with Cincinnati Design Week to talk through how I came up with the idea. And over all of that, in the last year, I think I connected with about 125 local creative professionals in Cincinnati. It was really cool to get to know everybody at that level. That's very deep, very personal. And the number, like, is it big, is it small? I actually don't care. But I think what I really cared about was like the resonance that I could see. Like people were like, this is an option. This is an option. I can actually do this. And I think that like very, very empowering, like I can do this feeling that I see in people is the thing that like drives me to do the work. In different ways. I also like to test and do different things. I get very bored very easily. So this initiative is currently at a pause, but I'm not at a pause because I'm asking. You want? I know this moving. So the collective work is based on my career experiences, but it is very inspired by my students. And some of you are here and so I took a thesis proposal class through the UC's Master of Design Writing program to work through the details of the collective work. But the more I did that work while I was teaching, the more what I was teaching got into the work. So this is the graduated classes of 2024 and 2025 from DAP. And in facilitating the classrooms was where I got to design the 10-week program structure for the collective work. Teaching wasn't it wasn't a thing I wanted to do. And it's probably based on an outdated notion of what a teacher was as an authority figure, as like the nectar of this power dynamic that I really didn't want to perpetuate. And so when I was offered a teaching job, I was in the shit show of a career that I was in. Like, it was just such a mess of a job, a thing that I was going through. They came in with this offer. I did not want to take it, but I just kind of needed it. And I thought if they were coming at me for this job, I'm like, they also really needed teachers. There's no way they would reach out to me like this persistently. Because I teach as an adjunct part-time, it was a per-term contract, so every semester I would sign a contract, and I'm like, sure, I can quit after the semester. I feel like that's a safe bet to do. Like I can do 3 to 4 months at a time. And then I've been doing this for over 3 years now. It became something like it's a really interesting experience to like come to this job and it didn't feel like a job. Because I literally was come and hang out with really cool people. I remember coming into the first time, my first class, it was Interaction Design 1 with the class of 2025. And I truly was like, I don't want to hear. But I saw their faces and they were just like so eager. Because I think at least they were like intrigued by this like small brown person to be like, I don't know why you're teaching, but you seem cool, I guess. But who are you? And I almost like refused to tell them who I was. I was just like, let me just teach you the material. And then I realized that I wasn't really even needing to teach the material. I just needed to sit down with them and test their ideas. And all of them have such incredible ideas. So I realized that my idea of what a teacher was, didn't have to be the teacher that I could be. And if anything, because I didn't want to be the teacher that I thought I needed to be, I became the teacher that they needed me to be. And so it's really beautiful every semester when I get a new batch of students, and even when I get returning like the same class of students, but like a different mix of them. And they get the opportunity to just like be whoever they are, and explore whatever ideas that they have. And I'm just helping them figure out like, all right, how do you still follow the rules in the way that like you can get away with it? We can find all the loopholes. We can do it. I believe in you. I support you. Let's figure out how we can like game the system. I still have trouble sometimes, like even recognizing or accepting that students enroll into my class specifically. I always think like, why would you do that? Sure, I like kind of played, like I did a bunch of collaborative, like just fun things with you in class. But I'm like, sure, but you still want to go take those professors who like are trained to do this, are qualified. They actually have like way more knowledge than I do. So I feel like I barely got out of school, and now I have to teach you stuff I maybe don't know. I do, but like it didn't feel like I did. So I remember chatting with one of my former students, and I just kind of said, like, I don't know why I want to do that. And he said, because you're young and punk. Like, that is the reason we take your class. And I said, that is the reason you should not take my class. Don't pay money for a young and punk teacher, pay money for like an established teacher. But he was just like, no, this is correct. This is the right teacher that we want. And I think about like what that means in youthfulness and punkiness, because I also think about like my teachers who were also youthful and also punk in a way that was like they had the opportunity and the privilege to be who they were and grow up in that, and they recognize how to help other people do that. And I think I kind of just passed that on. Because they were my favorite teachers for a reason, and I carried their teaching style with me, and then I now have that teaching style. And then I think I'm starting to make young punks coming out of the schools. They're my kids, they're my young punks. I'm not old enough to be a parental figure, but they're my young punks. So then it got me to reflect when I was actually young. I still didn't think I was a punk necessarily, but so I made my way to Savannah, Georgia in the US. So I managed to convince my family to let me go study abroad and then never went back. We visited. But when I was at SCAD was the opportunity for me to like really explore what that was. And SCAD was interesting, Savannah College for Art and Design. It was an interesting space because everyone was from everywhere, like literally very international and very national in a way that like
almost nobody was from Georgia at SCAD. And that was fun in that like, they didn't really care that I was from Malaysia. They didn't really care that I was brown. There's nothing about me that was just like strange or different. It was just like, who are you? What do you like? What do you want to be? And that was like such a good prompt to, what do I want? What do I want to be? Who do I like would like to be? And these are actually just like the more acceptable outfits that I'm showing on the slide. I had some really weird combos of different like pieces, but I looked at this and I'm just like, I guess this was punk. Like, I guess this was like something of like, how do I counter what I've been told that I should be wearing and how I should be presenting myself. And there's so many more layers to that, but this was kind of like a taste of my first realm of exploration of who I was. And I had a community to support that. I had friends, classmates, and everyone, teachers. This was, to me, this was just like, I am an art school kid. There's like, all art school kids look like this in a sense. And then when I graduated, I had some money to then explore with my hair. Because I didn't have money to really like do anything substantial with dark hair. But once I did have a way to safely bleach it, safely just like figure out what colors I could play with, I kind of went all out. I did go the opposite, like from black to all the way white. I do not regret. I fucking loved having platinum hair. It was so high maintenance, so expensive, so unnecessary, and I still loved it. And so from platinum, I could get different colors too. So it was really like that platinum gave me access to all the different colors that I wanted to try. They would fade immediately, but it was also like really cool that they faded immediately. And I think I want to say this was like a few years, like 3-ish years. And some of you know me at this stage where it's like, what color hair is going to come into this space next? Because I was truly just changing it up like every month or something. But it got a little too much in trying to maintain it. My roots always showed up like the next day, like immediately. Because I have very healthy hair. But I started going natural in 2020, not because of COVID. It was just like 2020 just became, I just decided to try and go back natural. It was such a huge shock to go back to black that I went to brown to try and like ease my way back into black. And then at one point I just like did a very short pixie just to like reset my hair. And then I found a hairdresser who was very knowledgeable in like helping me see how my hair was going to grow out, helping me understand that I don't have straight hair, I have wavy hair, and that was game changer because then we could figure out how to layer it to give me the volume. And I've always had volume, but it would always just like sit weird because it wouldn't be well kept. And so the transition from all of this, which sometimes I feel like is way more punk, to this my most natural state of my hair, most natural color, most natural texture, and it's maybe the most punk rock it has ever been, going from that to this. And it's really wild to think through how that punk rock like feel still can come through with just like your natural hair. I'm very excited for my gray hairs, by the way. I have so many coming in and I cannot wait. Just have natural platinum hair. So going back to my natural state kind of speaks to this return to simplicity. At UC, I actually took a history of rock and roll class, and in the part where they talk about punk rock and its influence in the evolution of rock and roll, they phrased it as a return to simplicity, which was what the punk rockers were doing to start punk rock. Going back to simple chords, going back to simple structures, but going at it with this like heart and like loudness, this like just being who you are more authentically is the simplest way to live. And so we think about all the conditioning that we've gone through to like try to fit in, to try and like follow the rules to be successful. When really, I feel the most successful when I am the most simple, when I'm at my simplest. So this is me. My mom said that my dad probably dressed me in this photo because his favorite color is red. And I am decked in all red here, my red glasses with a red bomber jacket and red like corduroy pants. And although I didn't dress myself in this photo, there's so much in this photo that I'm like, it feels like me somehow, like the most me I'll ever be is like in this photo. And kudos to my dad for like, maybe probably more so his preferences, but his preferences still aligning with mine in a way that I feel like I stood in the most natural way possible. There's no real posing. I probably just like stand here, take a picture, or we're done. No second thoughts about it. And I like using this photo as an example for myself too of like, what does simple mean to me? And it doesn't mean necessarily like you can't have flair or you can't like dress up. Like I don't usually layer a lot of my jewelry in my day-to-day. But for special occasions, I will. But it's still in alignment with like how I want to present myself, how I want to show up. And it's the simplicity is really in me rather than like in the things that I wear or the things that I have decided to like use as an outward appearance. And I think I've come a long way. There were lots of like twists and turns and dead ends and detours and a halfway around the world trip, but I think slowly but surely, I'll never get to that level of dopeness all the way, but I'm getting there, starting to get there. Cooler than a now photo is of Patti Smith. So I mentioned her earlier in the talk. She is also one of the early influencers of punk rock. And the one on the left is her in '76, and this is her in 2023. With gray hair. Look at how badass she looks. In 2023 at like a Paul McCartney tribute concert, so the Beatles. And she had this quote that said, "To me, punk rock is the freedom to create, the freedom to be successful, the freedom to not be successful, the freedom to be who you are. It's freedom." And this is actually a part of the talk where I was struggling to really like put into words what freedom means. And even though I like struggled to find exact words to describe to you, like this is what freedom means to me, I think I've been telling you throughout the whole talk what freedom means to me. And I think what's interesting about that is that freedom holds many definitions, and they differ not just by person, but also in time. So I think about my want to run away from home as seeking freedom. But once I did run away from home, I still got trapped by the systems that were in the US of how to be successful, how to show up, how to do things. And then when I left my corporate job to pursue a job that I thought was more in alignment with my values and turned out to be truly the most horrendous job experience I've ever had, it forced me to reevaluate what freedom meant. Like if I could not find freedom in this job that should have given me the most fulfillment because of the mission, because of who they were, then what does freedom really mean? What was I really seeking? If not the stability of this job or the money or the whatever, what does freedom really mean? So when I got laid off in 2023 from my full-time job, that was the last time I really held a full-time job. I've been freelancing, and I put that in air quotes because I'm not actively always looking for clients. I just kind of keep it like it's open. I kind of try to do a max. If I do have a project, it's 20 hours max, but I never really hit that even. I have my teaching part-time, which is great to have that time to do. And then I also found time to learn to drum. So when I started teaching was actually around the time I started to take drum lessons for the first time. And I've played some instruments before, but like never really seriously, don't know anything about song structures and things like that. But School of Rock in Madisonville is where I take my lessons. And they do a good job with just kind of breaking it down. It's not serious music school, but they have teachers who love what they do. And in the past few years, I figured out that I have good ears. And what a cool skill to know that you have and to be able to develop. Because as a designer, I developed a good eye. And now to like tap into a different sense, I truly, when I drum, I like don't use my eyes. I'm looking elsewhere, I'm making weird faces. I'm using my ears, so like I'm only listening. And it's been great to just like have had the time to explore this part. And I feel grateful to have been forced to reevaluate continuously what freedom means to me. And this has given me a lot of freedom in just trying new things. I want to show you this clip. I think sound should come out, maybe. So that's Carl. This is Todd, who I call my band dad. That's me. And then there's Steve, Tyler, and Giles on guitar and bass. So this was last week at Element Eatery. I play with School of Rock through their adult band program. And these are all adults, all playing instruments like for the first time or coming back to it. And I love Carl dancing at this. He loves it. We love this song. We love playing this song so much. Todd, I've played with him a few times. And I love just calling him my band dad. And he texted me, he said, "You were amazing. I'm proud to call you my band daughter." It's very cute. And I think about music too, as like, I went into drumming kind of as an individual desire, but in the community, in a band, is when we all get to shine together and really make the song work. On the right is a pair of drumsticks that my students gifted me. It says, "Being a rock star is the point," with Love Code Class of 2025. And I just wanted to show them how destroyed they are. And I plan to continue to use them until they break, and then I'll frame them. So I have a couple of slides that I want to like really end my talk with. If you take away anything, this is the thing you take away, just be punk. I know that I kind of talked through my history in a way that like, I feel like I was maybe naturally doing this, but I don't think I was born punk. I think I was born to recognize like things can be better, and I'm always kind of responding to that. And I think if you have some sense of like things can be better, you can be punk. And in helping you remember to be punk, I have these little zines. They're free. I don't know, I think I have enough for everybody, and you can grab one from here. But it's a very DIY zine. It says, "What the fuck is punk?" It has the principles of punk in there. If you come up here and there's no more, I can send you a PDF. Here's a link, a QR code to my Instagram. I also put a link to my Venmo in case you want to throw me $1 for, if you take one, you want to throw me $1, that'd be sick, but you don't have to. And then there's a secret poster on the inside if you open it up. And if you open it up and you don't know how to fold it back, you can ask me to fold it back for you. I'll show it to you and then you'll know how to do it. I do think that being punk is a choice, and it's like a belief. Like you kind of get into like, I believe in at least questioning what's going on and at least having some individual thought around what is going on. I like to also say that being punk is like a state of love that you just like, you love so hard, you like don't know how else to be. Like I love all the people around me. I really love all my students. I really love like wanting for everybody to be their best selves. And so I am punk for that reason, for out of my love for the way that I think we can be in this world. Thank you. That's the end of my talk. Thank you all for coming.